The beeping of monitors and the hushed voices of nurses created a familiar symphony in the dimly lit hospital ward. Doctor. Ayaan Kapoor moved swiftly through the corridors, his white coat billowing behind him. He had spent the last 36 hours on duty, and exhaustion clung to him like a second skin. But as he turned the corner, he caught sight of her. Drive. Zara Mehta, her dark hair tied into a messy bun, a pen tucked behind her ear, and an air of quiet determination surrounding her. Zara looked up from her patient's chart, her eyes meeting his for the briefest moment. It was a fleeting glance, but in that second, Ayaan felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken words between them. "You need sleep," she murmured as he stopped beside her. Ayaan smirked, leaning against the counter. "And you don't. When was the last time you had a proper meal?" Drive. Mehta. She rolled her eyes but smiled, the exhaustion in her own features making her beauty even more disarming. "We're doctors. Sleep and food are luxuries." A nurse approached with an urgent case file, breaking their momentary reprieve. "Dr. Kapoor, emergency in room 305. Duty called." Ayaan gave Zara a lingering glance before rushing down the hallway. She watched him go, her heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with the night's caffeine intake. Hours later, as dawn broke through the hospital windows, Zara found Ayaan slumped in a chair in the break room, fast asleep. She hesitated before stepping closer, the sight of him, vulnerable, peaceful, sending a wave of warmth through her. On impulse, she grabbed a blanket from the nearby couch and draped it over him. As she turned to leave, she heard his voice, groggy but teasing. "You do care about me, Drive." Mehta. She paused, looking over her shoulder, a smile playing at her lips. "Get some sleep, Ayaan. Tomorrow's another long day." He watched her disappear down the hallway, a soft chuckle escaping his lips. In a place where life and death coexisted every day, love, it seemed, had found its way in too. The next day was relentless. Ayaan barely had time to breathe between cases, and yet, his mind wandered back to Zara. Between emergency calls and patient rounds, their paths crossed in fleeting moments, a shared glance across the trauma ward, a quiet exchange of notes in the operating room, a brush of hands while reaching for the same clipboard. The unspoken tension between them grew heavier with every passing hour. Late that night, Ayaan found himself in the rooftop garden, seeking a rare moment of quiet. The city lights flickered below, and the cool breeze offered a brief respite from the overwhelming weight of responsibility. He didn't expect to find Zara there, leaning against the railing, lost in thought. "Long day?" he asked softly, stepping beside her. She exhaled, nodding. "Feels never-ending." Ayaan studied her in the dim glow of the hospital lights. "You know, for someone who insists on taking care of others, you're not very good at taking care of yourself." She let out a soft laugh. "Says the man who hasn't slept properly in days." They stood in silence for a moment, the quiet hum of the city below filling the space between them. Then, with a hesitance that was so unlike her, Zara reached out, her fingers grazing his. "Ayaan, do you ever wonder if we're making a mistake?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He turned to her, eyes dark and intense. "What do you mean? This, us. We spend our lives trying to save others, and yet, we don't even know how to save ourselves from this, whatever this is." She sighed, looking away. "Maybe it's easier to ignore it." Ayaan reached for her hand, stopping her from pulling away. "Ignoring it doesn't make it disappear, Zara. We both know that." She searched his face for something, assurance, hope, an answer he wasn't sure he had. Then, just as she was about to speak, a voice crackled over the hospital intercom, calling their names for an emergency. Their moment was gone. But as they rushed back into the chaos, Ayaan knew one thing for certain: whatever this was between them, it wasn't something that could be ignored. Not anymore. Days passed, their lives caught in a relentless cycle of duty, fatigue, and the occasional stolen glance. The weight of their growing feelings settled in the spaces between patient charts and hurried coffee breaks. One evening, after an intense surgery, Zara found herself sitting on the hospital steps, letting the night air cool her skin. Ayaan found her there, his hands tucked in his coat pockets, exhaustion evident in his posture. "You okay?" he asked, his voice softer than usual. She nodded but didn't speak. Instead, she moved over, making space for him beside her. He sat down, their shoulders barely touching. Silence stretched between them, comfortable yet charged. It was Ayaan who finally broke it. I don't think it's a mistake, he admitted. You and me. I don't know what this is yet, but I know it's real. Zara turned to face him fully, the vulnerability in his words catching her off guard. Ayaan, I don't want to lose myself in something we can't have. He held her gaze, unwavering. Then let's find a way to have it. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached out, linking her fingers with his. A simple, quiet declaration of something neither of them could put into words just yet. The hospital would always come first. But that night, under the glow of streetlights and the quiet hum of the world around them, they allowed themselves to believe in the possibility of something more.